So I finally got the last Christmas present on my list. It's for my sister. I genuinely had no idea what she wanted or what she liked because we have a very weird, strained relationship. And I asked my mom 6 times what I should get her, and she never responded. So I finally asked my dad when I saw him the other day, and he told me that I should get her Pokemon cards. So we went to a nerd store in town that I didn't know existed, and I got her 4 packs of Pokemon cards. So I'm very glad to have checked that off my list because that was something that I was kind of agonizing over. Because obviously, I can't get her nothing. Like, that would be super rude. But I didn't know what to get her, and also she scares me, so I didn't really feel comfortable texting her and asking her what she might want. And in the store, I looked to see if they had Moon Knight, and they didn't. They did have an interesting cardboard cutout of Luffy from One Piece, though. I just can't believe that that store's in this town. This is the most boring suburban town, in life. Why was it there? I honestly want to go back. I wanted to talk more with the owner guy because obviously he's a huge nerd and I'm a huge nerd, and maybe he could be a friend. I'm not sure. But I don't have social skills, and I just sort of I don't know. I'm not good at communicating. I just was like, hi, I'm buying this. Bye. So, yeah, that wasn't conducive to starting a conversation with him. So, didn't super do great there. And then the whole time I was getting really embarrassed because my dad was trying to describe the Pokemon cards that he knows my sister likes, but he was doing such a bad job. He was like, "Yeah, they're in a big box." And I'm thinking, is that could be any cards. Oh, okay. Um I don't know why that embarrassed me so much. And then I found this figurine of something that looked like a giant turd, and it was $100. And I thought, what is this turd from? Who is this turd? And who has bought this before? Not that specific figure, but if that figure exists, then it kind of insinuates that there are other of the same figure that were produced. And I want to know, who is the target demographic? Who buys that giant figure of a turd with arms and legs? Um, and if you're watching this by chance and you are one of those people who somehow recognizes what I mean from the very vague description of a giant figure of a turd with arms and legs, if you've bought that, then could you please tell me what it's from and why you love it so much? Yeah, I got that out of the way. Then I got overwhelmed because I realized I still have to wrap all of the Christmas presents, and I don't know where to go to get wrapping paper. And I think I'm being a little idealistic too, because I want all of the wrapping to be tailored to each specific person that I'm giving the gift to. But that might be difficult within this time frame, and also too expensive and a lot of other stuff. It's hard. I'm very idealistic. I think this is the ideal way to do something. This would be the perfect way. And then I sort of have to break it down and then be like, oh, but I can't do that because of these unfortunate real world constraints that exist and want to make me mad. Um, but I don't know. Maybe in the future it will be a possibility for me to wrap gifts for my loved ones in the way that I wish I could. Ugh, I'm feeling so bleh today. Just so bleh. Um, and I'm really apprehensive about that therapy appointment that I'm supposedly having tomorrow. And then, like, on top of that, like, the therapy appointment is at 10 a.m. It's like telehealth, which is great because I can't really get around on my own. But then I realized earlier that someone else in the system made a psychiatry appointment for tomorrow as well. I don't know when they did it, but I got a call today and the guy was like, "You have a psychiatry appointment with us, telehealth, the 20th, so tomorrow at 10:55 a.m." And I I was like, "Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't know, but awesome." Since the therapy appointment is only an intake, I'm not too worried about like the time going over because even if it ends up being like an actual therapy appointment, which I don't think it will, it's an intake. But even if by chance it was, those are 50 minutes long, 10 minutes to allow the therapist to like pee or eat or whatever. And since the first one is like 10 a.m. and then the second one's 10:55, um, let's say that it starts right at 10, I have like 5 minutes. And then if it's 5 minutes late, then you're fine. I'm fine too. But I think that it will probably only be like 15 minutes long, if I'm honest. And I know that Madison is like planning to be very curt and just say like, "Hey, this is what we're dealing with probably. Can you help us? Do you think we're too complex?" Instead of like having a back and forth conversation about it, just because I get it, like she really doesn't want to waste their time or waste our time, and I kind of feel similar. I also really don't want to waste our time. Um, we deserve to get help. We deserve to be seen, and if they can't do that, that is their pierogi. But I don't really want to spend more time talking to someone who can't see me long term um, than I would like to, if that makes sense. So I'm just feeling very apprehensive about that. I'm feeling apprehensive about the psychiatry appointment specifically because there are two things that I feel that I really need from a psychiatrist, and I guess I'm worried that neither of those needs can be met. So there's two things. One is I'm interested to ask them if there is a medication that can reduce dissociation and reduce switching. Um, and then the other is I really need to get properly diagnosed. I need somebody to evaluate me and definitively tell me what they think is going on with me. I need somebody who is able to sit down with me and listen to me explain like what I have been diagnosed with, and I need them to clearly be like let's say that I'm wrong and I do have bipolar disorder. I need someone who can like actually explain that to me. Be like, "Okay, I this is look at me and say, "Okay, I hear this is your understanding of why you don't have bipolar disorder. Now, I understand how you would come to this conclusion, but this is actually why I believe that you do." I have never been given an explanation like that by mental health professionals when they've diagnosed me. The last time I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, it was bipolar 2. And I said to them, "I don't believe I have this because my moods are not that consistent. I don't have like a week of depression followed by a week of hypomania. It's like, it's up and down for me. It's really, it's not like that point blank. It's not like, and then, I'm not like that." So, and then all they said to me was, "Well, actually, I don't even remember what they did say to me. I think they just kind of looked at me and like smiled, but they didn't say anything." And the thing too is like, now I'm wondering, was that smile supposed to mean like you don't view yourself accurately? But then I've lived with myself for my whole life, and I don't really trust that a doctor who hit on me at the psych ward is going to be able to accurately figure out mentally what is going on with me. That too, and like, I feel that an evaluation should be so much longer and more detailed than that. Because when I was diagnosed the last time with borderline personality disorder, PTSD, and bipolar 2 at the psych ward, they didn't give me they didn't give me tests. They'd never assessed me for anything. I was not given any like diagnostic quizzes or tests, like the dissociation scale. I'm not sure exactly what it's called. Like, they didn't really, from my memory, they didn't really do very much. And um yeah. So I'm pretty apprehensive about the appointments for that reason. I'm worried the psychiatrist just is going to tell me, like, I just prescribe medication. I don't do psychological assessments. And then another thing too is like I specifically sought out a psychiatrist because I was hoping that if the title of the professional that I saw, if it was a psychiatrist, then they might be more likely to be able to assess me and diagnose me properly, and explain to me like why they came to those conclusions, um, than like a psychiatric nurse practitioner, because it seems that it is so much easier to find a psychiatric nurse practitioner than it is to find a psychiatrist. And the last few times that I've sought medication management, I've had to settle for a psychiatric nurse practitioner just because there were no psychiatrists that were available. Um, and in my experience, like, I'm sure that that works for some people, but it didn't work for me really. I think, I don't know, like, maybe psychiatric nurse practitioners just aren't as experienced, but the last one that I saw had never heard of dissociative identity disorder, and it felt really stressful that it was just hard to see her because she'd never heard of it, and she was like a little bit dismissive, like not on purpose. She was trying to be nice to me, but she was a little bit dismissive of like the fact that I have disabilities. And I don't think she really saw how badly that my disabilities affect me and inhibit me, because I am articulate. And that's been a problem that I've faced my whole life, is that because I'm articulate, people don't believe that I suffer or that I struggle. And she would say to me, like, you're such an intelligent person, you're so articulate, why do you just stay at home all day? Why don't you go to school or something? And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, like, I've told you multiple times that I'm here because I can't sleep at all. I'm depressed. I'm cripplingly anxious. I have complex trauma, and like a huge reason why I'm not in school is because of the complex trauma. I can't learn because of the dissociative amnesia. And I don't know, she just didn't really understand it. But like for me, the dissociative amnesia has always been such a learning disability. Um, it's just made it very impossible for me to retain the knowledge that I'm supposed to, like, especially in school. Because I would switch so many times in one day, the autobiographical memory was very split up. And even like within the same 1 hour class, I wouldn't retain it all. I might have like a few sentences of what was read or a few words that I remember the teacher relaying, but it was all scattered across. And the amnesia was so blackout at that time that there really was no way for me to access it. And although the amnesia is less than it's been when I was younger, it's still very present and it still really disturbs my life and my functioning. And so if I were to go to school, I would really struggle with that. And then another facet of that as well is I don't have like a proper diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder. And I feel that if I were to go to school, I would need to have that so that I could get accommodations for the dissociative amnesia that I experience. Um, and another thing too is that like she knew I was in the dirt depressed because she was aware that I am resistant to psychiatric medication because we'd been trying them over and over, and she was aware that I had told her I've been to so many different med providers across my life, starting from the age of 5, and I've been tried on all of the same medications every time, and then they don't work, or I get the side effects that are supposed to be extremely rare, and then I have to find like a new med provider, I guess, because like I'm still suffering, like I need help. And everyone always says, well, like maybe you haven't found the right med yet, keep trying. But I've literally tried them all, at least all of the ones that every single med provider I've ever seen has seemed to think would possibly work for me, and none of them work. And she knew that I was looking into ketamine therapy, like because I have treatment resistant depression. So I find it very confusing that someone who is aware that my depression was so severe would think that like I was capable of going to school at that time. And I think part of it was triggering as well because I had a therapist in the past, like I believe I was like 23 or 24 when I had this specific therapist, and she did not understand that I had disabilities or that I was disabled. In fact, she would argue with me on that all of the time. I would like tell her, no, I have disabilities and this is why I struggle to do these things. And she would say, well, why are you limiting yourself? You're not disabled. And also she would tell me that I wasn't autistic despite being diagnosed at 6 years old. And that was really annoying. Um, it's just really stressful to be an autistic woman and to be articulate. And like, I was hyperlexic as a child. And for some reason, people seem to think that if you can string a sentence together, if you're articulate, then you don't struggle. And that's literally not true at all. And and because that psychiatry appointment was supposedly made by someone else in the system, um, I'm like a little concerned because I also made another one because I wasn't aware that we had that appointment. And so that one is for the 7th of January. I forget what time specifically. It's on my phone. I can check it later. But I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess like what I would have to do is like if this one works out, if this person's willing to see me, then I could just cancel the appointment on the 7th. Or if the person is willing to see me, another option is I could let them know that like I really appreciate that. I have another intake that I'm going to have done on the 7th, and I'm going to see how that is, and if they seem to be a better fit, then I'm going to go with them. I feel like there's nothing wrong with saying that, possibly. But then that brings up the possibility that if I do that, then I might, if I end up liking the first med provider more, I might lose them because they might take on another client and then that spot is filled, and then they might not be accepting any new patients. Oh, so there's something that you guys should know. It's that the one that I made is they're a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and I know that you'd prefer a psychiatrist, so we'll see, you know? Okay. That is like a really important factor. I would prefer a psychiatrist. I'm gonna have to think about this more and see what I actually want to do, or like what I think will be best. But yeah, we will see.